God is not angry with you, but He is urgently trying to reach you. This is the last time I'm placing this on your screen. Don't ignore this moment, open this now. My child, you may have felt a jolt when you first saw that harsh warning flash before you, as if the heavens themselves were speaking with clenched fists. But breathe, my dear one. Nothing in the heart of God comes to you in rage. What arrives for you in this moment arrives through a doorway of compassion, even if the frame looked intimidating at first glance. Stay with me. In a moment, you'll understand why that message found your screen, and why it carries tenderness rather than threat. I want you to notice how your body shifts when reassurance begins to replace fear. The shoulders ease, the chest softens, the breath remembers its rhythm. This is not the atmosphere of punishment. This is the atmosphere of being gently called back into alignment, as though a soft hand rests on your back and guides you toward a steadier place. You are not in trouble. You are being gathered. And the fact that you are listening now is evidence of how ready your heart truly is. When something startling appears in your path, it doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means you've reached a moment that matters, a turning point that requires your awareness. Imagine a lantern suddenly lit in a dark corridor. The light may shock your eyes, but it is there to guide you, not frighten you. What showed up on your screen is like that lantern. A sudden brightness. A holy interruption. A signal that you are standing on soil ready for new understanding. You have been carrying questions, perhaps quietly, perhaps with a tired sort of courage. You have wondered what direction to take, what meaning sits beneath repeated patterns, what guidance you might be missing. This moment arrives as a response to that inner call. Not an accusation, but an answer. Not a rebuke, but a reminder that you have not been walking alone. Listen closely, my beloved child, because even now the atmosphere around you is beginning to soften with clarity. There is a gentleness moving toward you, even if your mind still rehearses old fears. Let them settle for a moment. Let the noise fade. You are stepping into a space where love speaks differently, where guidance arrives with reassurance rather than urgency. If the earlier message felt sharp, it is only because you are shedding a season of heaviness, and the contrast made the invitation louder. What looks like warning is often the doorway to deeper presence. Stay with me now, because something within you is already responding. Notice the warmth starting in your chest, the way your breath loosens, the subtle sense that you're being watched over rather than judged. This is the truth beneath the outer shell of that alarming title. You are being called into peace. You are being gathered into alignment. And even if you cannot yet name the reason, your spirit recognizes that something sacred is unfolding around you. Let this reassurance settle gently as you step toward deeper understanding today. Before we go any further, let this moment become a sanctuary. You may have arrived here with thoughts pulling you in a dozen directions, each one asking for attention, each one insisting it matters most. But for now, let everything slow. Let everything soften. There is nothing you must solve in this exact breath. There is only the invitation to come back home to yourself, to the quiet place within where God meets you without strain or judgment. If this already softens your chest, stay with me. Take one gentle inhale, not forced, not exaggerated, just enough to feel your ribs rise. Notice how the air moves in, cool and steady, like a small reminder that life is still entering you moment by moment. Hold it there for the length of a heartbeat. Then let it go, slow and unhurried, as though you were releasing a weight you didn't realize you had been gripping. Let your shoulders drop a little. Feel the slight warmth forming at the center of your chest, a warmth that often appears when your soul begins to settle. You don't have to chase stillness. Stillness will come to you the moment you stop running from yourself. Let the noise of today fall away, not by force, but simply by allowing the present moment to expand until it fills your awareness. Do you feel the difference already? Scattered thoughts start to fade when you give them space instead of resistance. Your mind is like stirred water. When you stop shaking it, clarity returns on its own. Let your breath be an anchor now. Inhale and feel the breath travel low, as though it were touching the deeper parts of you that long for rest. Exhale and imagine the tension unspooling, one thread at a time. If any thought interrupts you, something you forgot, something you fear, something you keep replaying, don't fight it. Notice it, name it gently, and let it drift past like a small cloud crossing an otherwise open sky. Presence is not about silence, it's about permission. My dear one, there is something sacred about the way your breath can bring you back into alignment without a single word spoken. Each inhale says you are still here. Each exhale says you are allowed to release. Feel your body responding, the way your chest eases, the way your jaw softens, the way your heart space begins to open as though it recognizes a familiar touch. You are not just calming your mind, you are preparing your spirit to hear what has been whispering to you beneath all the noise. Let yourself sink a little deeper into this moment. Imagine a gentle light surrounding you, warm but not overwhelming, steady but not demanding. It rests on your shoulders like a shawl of comfort, reminding you that presence is not something you have to earn. It is something you return to, again and again, whenever life pulls you too far from your center. Stay here just a breath longer. Let this stillness settle into your bones. Let your spirit remember what calm feels like. And as your mind grows quieter, you'll sense that something meaningful is beginning to rise, ready to meet you with clarity and grace. You've been moving through your days with more weight than you let others see, my dear one. Even in the moments when you smile or show strength, something inside you has been whispering for acknowledgement, for a place to set down what feels heavy. Uncertainty has followed you like a quiet shadow, lingering behind every decision, every hope, every delayed answer. And though you rarely speak it aloud, a part of you has wondered if anyone, even heaven, truly sees what you carry. Heartbreak has also carved its own space in you, perhaps from love that changed shape, promises that dissolved, or expectations that never materialized the way you prayed they would. You have replayed certain memories more than once, not because you want to stay in the past, but because your soul keeps reaching for the moment it first started to ache. There is no shame in that. It is the human way of trying to understand what went missing. And then there are the unanswered prayers, the ones you held tightly, believing they would unfold with sacred timing. Yet some of them remain still, untouched, as though suspended between heaven and earth. You've wondered whether the delay means you misheard, or hoped for too much, or missed some hidden instruction along the way. But listen closely, beloved child. Hidden inside these very delays is a meaning you have not discovered yet, a meaning that has been gently forming beneath the surface. You have carried all of this quietly, often believing that your resilience required silence. Yet heaven has witnessed every moment, the trembling hope, the disappointments you tried to rise above, the nights when you asked for just one sign that you were not alone. You have never been unseen. You have never been overlooked. What feels ignored is often being held, shaped, or softened until the right moment arrives for revelation. My dear one, the weight you've been carrying is not a sign of weakness but of depth. It means you have loved deeply, hoped sincerely, prayed honestly, and endured more than you ever speak aloud. And though you may have felt abandoned at times, your spirit has continued reaching, continued listening, continued believing that something meaningful must exist beneath the struggle. That instinct is right. Something meaningful does exist there. Even now, as you sit with these truths, something inside you is stirring in recognition, as though a locked door has begun to shift. You may not yet understand the purpose behind every unanswered question or every moment of aching, but there is a quiet assurance rising within you that none of it has been wasted. Every tear has watered something hidden. Every pause has guarded something precious. Every longing has shaped something true within you. And soon, in a way that feels unmistakably yours, you will begin to see how the threads of your story have never been scattered. They have been gathered with intention, waiting for the moment your heart is ready to understand. You've grown familiar with the ache of waiting, my dear one. It has pressed against your patience, stretched your faith, and whispered questions you didn't want to ask. There were moments when the delay felt personal, almost like a closed door from heaven, and you wondered if you had done something wrong. But listen gently now. What you called a setback was often a shield. What looked like punishment was actually protection wearing a disguise you couldn't recognize in the moment. Think of the times when you prayed for something to move quickly, only to feel everything slow to a crawl. You felt frustration rise, as though the universe had forgotten you, as though God was silent while your heart was pleading for motion. Yet beneath those very pauses, alignment was forming, quietly, intricately, with a precision that only becomes visible in hindsight. Delays are not always denials. Sometimes they are a divine hand resting over you, keeping you from stepping into something unready, unstable, or unworthy of the depth you carry. There were doors you wanted to force open, and had they opened, they might have led you into confusion or heartache you didn't deserve. There were people you asked to stay, not realizing their presence would have dimmed your spirit. There were opportunities you tried to hold, unaware that holding them would have cost you the peace you're now learning to protect. One day soon, you'll see why the pause was necessary. You'll look back and feel gratitude for the very moments that once felt unfair. Alignment is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or certainty. It works in whispers, in slow rearrangements, in quiet redirections that make no sense until suddenly everything fits. And while you waited, sometimes impatiently, sometimes tearfully, life was clearing space, shifting paths, and softening edges so that what is meant for you could arrive without chaos. This is how protection moves, silently, intentionally, often disguised as waiting. My dear one, you have not been punished. You have been preserved. Every delay has held you like a gentle hand cupping a fragile flame, shielding it from winds you didn't know were coming. You weren't being held back, you were being held together. You weren't being slowed down, you were being aligned with something sturdier, kinder, and truer than what you originally reached for. Feel into that truth for a moment. Notice how your body reacts when you imagine that every pause has been purposeful. There is a softening inside you, a loosening of old tension, a subtle rise of trust. What once felt like abandonment begins to feel like guardianship. What once felt like silence begins to feel like orchestration. And you start to sense what you couldn't before. Your path has never been stalled at random. Stay with that feeling. Let it reassure you as you move forward. Because the same protection that shaped your waiting is still guiding you, preparing the way for something that will meet you with peace rather than strain, clarity rather than confusion, and alignment rather than resistance. There have been moments, my dear one, when something small caught your attention and you brushed it off, assuming it was coincidence or imagination. Yet the truth is that you've been receiving gentle signs far longer than you realized. These signs weren't meant to scare you or confuse you. They were meant to guide you back toward recognition, to help you remember that heaven has been closer to your story than your doubts ever allowed you to believe. Again and again, the signs came. Think about the times you glanced at the clock and saw 11:11 glowing back at you. Maybe you shrugged and moved on, but a part of you felt a small spark, a quiet knowing you couldn't quite explain. Or the moments when a feather appeared in an unexpected place, soft and out of season, resting somewhere it didn't logically belong. Again and again, the signs came, slipping into your awareness like whispers carried on the gentlest wind. There were songs that played at the exact moment you needed comfort, lyrics arriving like messages written specifically for your heart. There were dreams that felt more like visitations, filled with people you miss or symbols that stirred a deep familiarity. You may not have fully understood them, but they lingered with you longer than ordinary dreams ever do. Again and again, the signs came, asking for just a moment of your attention, just enough space for you to wonder if they meant more than coincidence. You've walked through seasons where your mind felt tangled, where confusion clouded what your spirit was trying to show you. But signs were still reaching for you, not in loud or dramatic ways, but in soft notes, in fleeting impressions, in patterns too gentle to demand belief. Heaven honors your freedom, so guidance rarely forces itself. Instead, it nudges, it repeats, it circles back, hoping that one day you will tilt your head just slightly and say, maybe this isn't random. Maybe I'm being spoken to. Some signs arrived in the people you met, the ones who showed up at the precise moment you needed a reminder of kindness or clarity. Others arrived when something fell through, plans shifting, timing changing, unexpected redirections. Even those were signs, pointing you away from what wasn't aligned and toward what would eventually bring you peace. Again and again, the signs came, even when your heart was too weary to interpret them. And now, as you pause and look back, you can sense it more clearly. These moments weren't isolated. They formed a trail. They carried a message. They were evidence that you have never been wandering unaccompanied. The feathers, the repeats of 11:11, the songs that made you stop, the dreams that stayed with you, they were all threads of the same loving tapestry. Let yourself feel the shift that happens when confusion turns into recognition. Let your spirit soften as you realize how deeply you've been cared for, even in seasons when you felt overlooked. And as you become more aware of these gentle signs, you'll start noticing them with greater ease, as though the veil between you and divine guidance grows thinner each day. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when the signs become louder than your doubts, and yet your mind still wavers, unsure of what is true guidance and what is simply noise. My dear one, this is where discernment becomes your anchor. You were never meant to navigate every sign, every dream, every inner nudge with confusion swirling through you. There is a simple, sacred measure that has always been available to you: peace. Peace is the voice of alignment. Panic is the voice of caution. And learning to distinguish the two will become one of the greatest gifts you ever give yourself. Think for a moment about the times you felt overwhelmed, when a thought or intuition rushed in with intensity that tightened your chest, quickened your breath, or sent your mind spinning. That sensation is not divine instruction. It is your spirit asking you to pause, to step back, to breathe before you interpret anything at all. True guidance does not shove. It does not frighten. It does not force urgency into your bones. Peace leads you, panic pushes you. Feel that difference in your body even now. There have been moments when a sign appeared, 11:11 on a clock, a name repeated through your day, a dream vivid enough to stay with you, and your first impulse was confusion. But beneath that confusion, if you listened closely, there was often a quiet layer of calm, a subtle inner yes that didn't demand but gently resonated. That resonance is the voice you are learning to trust. It moves slowly, wordlessly, like warm light settling around your ribs. It doesn't cloud your thinking, it clears it. It doesn't overwhelm your emotions, it steadies them. This is how heaven speaks. And yet, there are other times when a sign or a thought arrives with pressure. Act now, fix this immediately, you're running out of time. That pressure may masquerade as intuition, but it pulls you away from your center instead of drawing you deeper into it. Panic pretends to be guidance, but it always reveals itself through tension. If it tightens you, pause. If it unsettles you, breathe. Your inner voice is never frantic. Your true wisdom is never chaotic. And the divine will never guide you through fear. My beloved child, discernment is not just about interpreting signs, it is about recognizing your own inner landscape. The more you learn the texture of peace within you, the easier it becomes to hear when something aligns with your spirit. Peace feels like spaciousness, like a softening behind your sternum, like a sense that you can breathe more fully. Panic feels like contraction, like confusion layered on top of urgency, like thoughts that collide instead of flowing. One day soon, you'll notice the difference within seconds, and it will change the way you move through the world. Stay with this thought for a moment. You are not learning to listen to some distant, unreachable voice. You are learning to recognize the voice that has always been yours, the one beneath the noise, the one that rises slowly, the one that feels like truth instead of pressure. And as you become familiar with that voice, you'll step into clarity that no confusion can shake. Your heart has been carrying more tension than you often acknowledge, my dear one. Before you move further, let these simple practices soften the inner agitation you've held. Just one breath can shift the landscape within you more quickly than you expect. Close your eyes for a moment and inhale slowly, filling your chest with steadiness. Hold that breath lightly, as though you're cradling something fragile but deeply precious. Then release it gently, letting the exhale carry away the noise that clings to you. Just one breath, repeated slowly, begins to settle the atmosphere inside your body. If your mind wanders, let it wander without judgment, and simply return to the breath. Just one moment of awareness can loosen knots that have lived in you for months. Place your hand over your heart and notice the warmth meeting your palm instantly. This simple touch cue reminds your nervous system that you are safe right now. As your palm rests there, imagine a gentle light expanding beneath your hand slowly. Let that imagined warmth soften the edges of whatever emotion has been overwhelming you. You don't have to fix the feeling, you only need to acknowledge its presence compassionately. This tenderness toward yourself creates room for your spirit to breathe more freely again. Just one gentle touch can shift your energy in ways words often fail to reach. Now allow a few honest thoughts to rise, not forced, simply welcomed as they appear. Take a moment and ask yourself what emotion has been sitting closest to the surface. Without judging it, write one sentence that names that feeling as gently as possible. You don't need a full journal entry, you only need one honest line of truth. This small act of naming brings clarity to fogged emotions that once felt impossible to untangle. Just one sentence can open a door inside you that has been locked by exhaustion. As you breathe and write, agitation begins to loosen its hold, even if only slightly. Let that slight shift remind you that healing rarely arrives in dramatic waves of change. Often it comes in tiny softenings, small breaths, subtle acknowledgments your heart has long needed. Your spirit doesn't require perfection to rest, it requires presence, even if imperfectly offered. When you choose presence, even briefly, peace begins to gather at the edges of your awareness. Let yourself notice how your breath feels different now, softer, deeper, less constricted inside. Your body always responds when your heart is met with gentleness instead of pressure. Each of these small practices helps create space where you can hear your own truth clearly. Just one breath, one touch, one honest sentence can begin shifting your internal landscape meaningfully. You are not trying to escape your feelings but learning to soothe them with compassion. As calm gathers, even subtly, you'll sense a gentle clarity rising from beneath the noise. Stay here a little longer, breathing softly, letting awareness settle where agitation once lived. Let calm deepen within now. There is a moment, my dear one, when something inside you begins to turn even before anything outside you changes. It starts in a quiet place beneath the noise, a place you rarely slow down enough to notice. The shift doesn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic signs, it arrives as a subtle calm that moves through your chest like a soft tide. You may not recognize it at first, but your spirit does. It knows when something is finally aligning. You'll notice the first sign in your next still moment, a gentle reassurance rising before any clarity takes shape. This quiet inner turning often appears long before your circumstances shift. It shows up in the way your breath feels steadier, or how your thoughts begin to soften around the edges. You find yourself less tempted to chase answers and more willing to let them come in their own timing. Chaos-led choices lose their pull, and peace-led steps begin to feel natural again. This is the early whisper of breakthrough, the moment when your inner world prepares the ground for what your outer world will soon reflect. And though it begins softly, it carries a strength that stays with you. When this shift begins, you might notice small things changing first. The thought that used to overwhelm you now feels more manageable. The memory that once tightened your chest loses some of its sting. Even the questions you carry feel different, not heavier but clearer, as if they are being rearranged inside you. This is how clarity arrives, not all at once, but in little waves that prepare your heart to receive deeper understanding. Peace starts leading the way, and you follow almost without noticing, drawn by the quiet steadiness that wasn't there before. You may also sense a gentle detachment from the chaos that once dictated your reactions. The same situations that used to trigger anxiety now meet a calmer version of you. This doesn't mean you have stopped caring, it means you are no longer ruled by fear. Something wiser is guiding your responses. Something steadier is shaping your choices. You are beginning to trust the inner cues that rise without pressure, those soft impressions that feel like truth settling into place. This inner turning is subtle, but it is unmistakable once you feel it. Stay attentive to these quiet shifts, because they form the pathway toward the life that is aligning for you even now. You may not see the full picture yet, but the inner calm you're beginning to feel is the first evidence that something sacred is unfolding within you. Let this calm guide your next steps, small and steady, without rushing toward conclusions. You'll notice how peace nudges you, how clarity follows, how your choices begin to feel more grounded. And as you lean into this rhythm, the outer pieces of your life will start reflecting the inner turning that has already begun. Trust the quiet. Trust the soft signals rising within. Let your spirit listen. Let me tell you a gentle story, my dear one, a quiet vignette of a woman who once thought she had been forgotten. She carried her fear like a small stone in her pocket, always present, always pressing into her. She woke each morning with a feeling she couldn't quite name, a mixture of longing and uncertainty, as though she were standing outside her own life waiting to be invited back in. She prayed, though not always with confidence. She listened, though not always with hope. And in her quietest moments, she wondered if heaven had stepped away from her. But the truth was far softer, far kinder than she imagined. For a long while, nothing around her seemed to change. The same unanswered questions remained. The same delays repeated themselves. She mistook this stillness for abandonment, believing she had somehow slipped off the map of divine attention. Yet even in those silent days, guidance was humming beneath the surface, working in ways she couldn't see. It wasn't that she was alone, it was that she was being held in a place she didn't know how to recognize. One evening, when her thoughts were tangled and her breath felt shallow, she stepped outside just to feel the night air. She didn't expect anything sacred to meet her there. She simply needed space. As she stood beneath the sky, something subtle shifted, nothing dramatic, just a small sense that her heart could expand again. A soft calm brushed against her, almost like a familiar presence returning after a long journey. She didn't hear words. She didn't see a sign. But she felt something loosening within her, as though the universe had leaned close enough for her to remember she wasn't forsaken. In the days that followed, she noticed small things that had been easy to miss before. A song that felt strangely comforting, arriving on a morning when her spirit felt thin. A message from a friend she hadn't spoken to in months, containing the exact reassurance she needed. A dream that left her waking with a sense of connection instead of fear. None of these moments promised a sudden solution or a dramatic breakthrough. But each one felt like a hand catching hers softly, guiding her back to herself. Slowly, her breath deepened. Slowly, her inner world steadied. She began to look at her circumstances not as evidence of abandonment but as a season of careful preparation. She didn't pretend that everything was perfect. She didn't claim that all her questions were answered. What she found instead was something quieter, a renewed sense of being accompanied. A gentle awareness that guidance had never left her, even when she felt lost. And though her story continued with normal days and ordinary challenges, she walked through them differently. The stone in her pocket felt lighter. The fear softened its voice. And the peace that grew within her became her compass, steady and patient. You may see pieces of your own journey in hers, not as a promise of what must happen, but as a reminder that restoration often begins softly, in moments so small they almost go unnoticed, until one day, you realize your heart has been quietly healing all along. As your heart begins to settle, my dear one, what matters now is allowing this peace to take root gently instead of slipping away the moment life becomes loud again. These next few days can become a soft container for your healing if you move through them with intention rather than drifting emotionally through each moment. Save this part for later, because these small practices are not tasks to complete but gentle companions meant to walk beside you. Begin each morning with a quiet pause before the world asks anything of you. It doesn't need to be long, just a slow inhale that fills your chest and a long exhale that reminds your body it is safe to soften. Let this single breath become your grounding point, a doorway back into yourself. As you breathe, place your hand over your heart for a moment and simply acknowledge where you are. Not where you wish you were, not where you fear you should be, just here, held in this present moment. This small beginning helps your day unfold from peace instead of reaction. Throughout your day, notice the subtle shifts in your inner world. If you feel yourself drifting into worry, pause and ask, what is my heart trying to tell me right now? The answer may be quiet, just a faint sense of needing rest, clarity, or reassurance. Give yourself permission to respond gently instead of pushing through. Walking intentionally doesn't require rigid discipline, it simply asks for awareness, the willingness to return to center whenever you notice you've wandered. Let yourself pay attention to small signs without clinging to them. If a number repeats, if a feather crosses your path, if a lyric feels perfectly timed, let it bring comfort without demanding meaning. Trust that guidance can be soft and still powerful. These gentle reminders are not instructions but invitations, subtle ways the universe whispers that you're not walking alone. Notice them the way you'd notice warm sunlight touching your skin, pleasant, supportive, but not something you need to chase. In the evenings, set aside a few minutes for reflection. Sit somewhere quiet, breathe slowly, and let your thoughts settle like sediment in clear water. Ask yourself what felt peaceful today, even if only for a moment. Then ask what felt heavy, not to judge yourself but to bring compassion to the parts of you still healing. If you feel inspired, write one sentence about each. This simple practice keeps your heart aligned with self-awareness rather than emotional drifting. As these days unfold, you may feel moments of deep calm followed by moments of uncertainty. This is natural. Healing rarely travels in straight lines. If your peace feels fragile, return to your breath. If your mind wanders, pause and listen. If your heart tightens, place your hand over it again and offer yourself the tenderness you often reserve for others. These small practices, pauses, breaths, quiet noticing, are how peace becomes anchored, steady enough to hold you even when life shifts around you. Let these days be gentle ones, days shaped not by pressure but by presence. Let them remind you that you can walk with intention, guided by the soft rhythm of your own inner clarity. There comes a moment, my dear one, when you look back at the road you've walked and realize how different reality was from the story fear tried to tell you. You spent so many days believing you were falling behind, believing something was wrong with you, believing heaven had turned its face away. Yet as the pieces begin to settle, you can feel the truth rising like soft dawn light. What you thought was abandonment was actually protection. What you thought was silence was careful guidance. What you thought was punishment was the patient shaping of something tender and meaningful within you. Not because you failed. Not because you were forgotten. Not because your prayers were unworthy. These refrains repeat like a gentle heartbeat, steadying the places that once trembled. Fear had a way of distorting your vision, whispering that delays meant distance and confusion meant disfavor. But love has always been louder, even when it spoke in whispers you didn't yet know how to hear. Love guided each step, even the hesitant ones. Love held you when you doubted your own strength. Love redirected you when rushing would have led you where your spirit was never meant to go. You thought you needed to hurry, to force answers, to chase clarity before you took another breath. But timing has always unfolded differently than your fears predicted. Rushing led you into exhaustion. Waiting, though uncomfortable, carried wisdom you couldn't see then. What felt like stagnation was preparation. What felt like emptiness was space being made for something truer. And now you can sense it, the difference between a life shaped by pressure and a life shaped by alignment. Look at the contrast with clear eyes. Fear constricted your breath, love opens your chest. Fear narrowed your world, love expanded your understanding. Fear insisted everything was urgent, love showed you that what is meant for you will never demand panic. You have lived long enough with fear's distorted narratives to recognize their tone. And now, as peace continues to grow in you, you are learning the sound of truth, calm, steady, gentle, unmistakably anchored in presence. Not because you failed. Not because you were forgotten. Not because you were unworthy. These truths wash over the old wounds, softening the stories you once believed without question. Where you once imagined God was distant, you can now sense how close heaven has always been, guiding you through synchronicities, through pauses, through the quiet rising of intuition that felt too subtle to trust. Every open loop your heart carried, every question, every ache, every longing, was held with care long before you understood its purpose. Let yourself feel the shift happening inside you now. The fear that once made your steps unsteady no longer has the same power. The love that once felt hidden is revealing itself as the thread that carried you all along. This contrast is not meant to shame your past concerns, it is meant to illuminate the presence that never left your side. What you thought was the end was simply a turning. What you thought was silence was a deeper invitation. And what you thought you walked through alone has always been shared with a presence that moves with you, breath by breath, guiding you toward a life shaped by truth instead of fear. As this moment together begins to draw toward its gentle close, my dear one, let your heart feel the warmth that has been gathering around you. Even though the video will end soon, the presence that has been meeting you here does not. What you've touched in these quiet minutes is not something that disappears when the screen goes dark. This peace stays with you, moving softly beside you, guiding you in ways your spirit already understands. The end of this message is not the end of your support, it is only a doorway into continued companionship, both divine and human. So let me speak a blessing over you now, slowly and tenderly. May your breath remain steady in the coming hours. May your heart remember the calm it discovered here, even if life becomes loud again. May clarity rise in you like morning light, unhurried, gentle, unmistakable. And may every step you take be guided not by fear or pressure, but by the quiet knowing that has begun to settle in your chest. You are held. You are seen. You are not walking alone, and you never have been. Feel that truth soften into you. Imagine a warm hand resting lightly on your back, steadying you, encouraging you, reminding you that you are supported in ways you cannot always name. You are moving forward with guidance, not guesswork. With intention, not drifting. With companionship, not isolation. Even when you feel unsure, love continues to gather around you like a protective hush, surrounding you with more care than you realize. And now, my dear one, let this blessing extend beyond you. Take a moment to place your hand over your heart and breathe once, slowly. With that breath, release whatever heaviness still lingers and welcome the peace that has been rising through these words. If there has been something on your mind, an intention, a prayer, a quiet hope, allow yourself to hold it gently for a moment. You don't need to force anything. You only need to acknowledge what your heart already knows matters. If this message met you in a deep place, you are welcome to stay connected. This space is meant to be a soft landing, a gathering place for souls seeking clarity, healing, and gentle companionship. If you feel comfortable, share a quiet intention or blessing of your own in the comments, not for validation but as an offering of connection, a way of saying, I'm here, and I'm walking this path too. Someone else may need the very words you carry. And if you'd like to be held in this kind of peace more often, you are warmly invited to join this community by subscribing or simply returning whenever your spirit needs rest. No pressure, no urgency, just an open door waiting for you. What we are building here is not just content, it is a circle of presence, a place where you can breathe, reflect, and remember who you are. As you step back into your day, may love go with you. May peace follow you. And may you feel supported long after these words fade, held by a presence that continues to whisper reassurance into the quiet spaces of your life.